Hello and welcome to the Crimson Stitchery, a video tunnel about making all things that are beautiful and useful. Welcome to my fortnightly podcast video. My name is Anushka and you can find me elsewhere online as A Sour Telling, that's A Sour Telling, and that's my username over on Ravelry and on Instagram. I'll just note that on Instagram I'm using Instagram as a personal Instagram, so it's not like a kind of on brand or whatever that even means account for this YouTube channel. It's just for me, kind of things that catch my eye out and about. But on Ravelry we do have a Ravelry group called the Crimson Stitchery, which is a great place to go to get ideas, tips, have conversations, meet other people in the Crimson Stitchery community, if you will, and links to that and anything else that I mention in this video is found on the down bar here on YouTube, which is the case with all of my videos. So, hi, I'm back. Have you missed me? It's been a couple of weeks since I've recorded a kind of up-to-date live-ish podcast episode because I've released a couple of vlogs, and also my last Crimson Stitchery episode was a special episode. That was an interview with my sister for Pride because London Pride fell at the beginning of July. So in many ways, loads and loads of stuff has happened since I've last had a little sit down on my sofa and a catch up with you, so I'm really glad to be joining you here today. So in this fortnight's episode, I'm drinking a glass of tap water, not very thrilling particularly, and I will be talking to you about recent finished objects, current knitting projects. I'll share my finished lehenga, which I mentioned at length in the last but one episode, and share some footage of me wearing it in action, and also in conversational threads, which is the section at the end of every episode, I will be doing a reading, which is something that I do round about every other month. I'll have an episode where I'll read some poetry or some prose, and this month it's going to be some prose for you. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Knitting. I've not been doing tons of knitting. It's still really kind of warm and muggy. I've had a lot on, as you guys know. But I have finished a pair of socks, so I've kind of been a little bit disinclined to work on the larger jumper projects that I've got going on the needles, and at the same time, I don't know, I just wanted to do something new, so I've got a pair of these bright neon pink trainer socks that I cast on about a week and a half ago now. So here's a close-up. They're these lace Mercury socks, which is a free pattern that's available on Ravelry, and they're so bright. And I thought, you know, socks for the summer, knitted socks for the summer are always a bit difficult because you still want to wear hand knit socks, but it can get really hot. So I thought that this lace pattern would be a really good option because it's basically full of holes to allow a lot of airflow, and also being trainer socks, they're really short. So you still get to wear hand knitted socks and you don't need to suffer for that pleasure, if you will. So yeah, I knitted these using only one 50-gram skein of, or hank I should say, of Socks Yeah by Rachel Coop Knits. And I got that when I went down to Tribe Yarns in Richmond in southwest London recently for a really fabulous knitting meetup with a lot of fabulous ladies from around the craft knitting, podcasting and yarn fibre sphere. So that was a really lovely day. I don't go to Tribe very often because it's literally couldn't be further away from my house. So whilst I was there, obviously I had to pick up a few things for me. And so I've made these hot pink ones, and I also got a neon green 50-gram skein as well. So I'm going to be doing a second pair of ankle socks, and I might write my own pattern for that. I'm not sure yet. I'm really excited to get back into writing knitting patterns and just general, you know, regular creativity, because as you guys know, the last few months have been a bit of a kind of treadmill for want of a better word recently, and I had said to myself I'm going to hit my birthday and I'm going to relax, and I've just hit my birthday. I had a really fabulous birthday at the weekend just gone. And that kind of really warm and joyful feeling is just continuing through the week, and I've decided to take a few more days, if not another week, off work. So I'm just kind of relaxing and taking it easy. Yeah. other things that I've been working on. The other day I put a few more rows on my Magnolia jumper, so you've seen quite a lot of it several times before. It's nearly finished because I've done one sleeve, and I'm just trying to work on the second sleeve. I've had a bit of a boo-boo with this one in that I knit all of the lace, the whole thing, and then I realised I'd forgotten to do enough sleeve decreases, so I had to rip it all the way back, and now I'm working on it again, and it's just the kind of last push. I've done half of the lace pattern roundabout, you know, I've worked down the flower, and I just need to do the leaves and the stem and then the ribbed cuff, so it's really almost there. But even just holding this up and feeling a little bit of insulation from the wool is making me swelter, so not in any rush for that. And of course this is knit using whole super soft, so when I do finish knitting this and I wash out the spinning oil using the washing machine, I am planning on filming a tutorial video, so you know, watch out for that in the next month or so. If you're curious about whole super soft yarn, I do have 2 videos up about working with this product here on YouTube, so that's that. And then the other thing that I've been occasionally putting some rows on is my caterpillar jumper, which is sitting in this big drawstring project bag. And I just thought I'd bring out my back copy of Rowan 32 that's about 10 years old. It doesn't have a date on it, but I know it's about 10 years old at least, that I got this pattern from. So this is a Kaffe Fasset pattern. And it's absolutely stunning. And like Kaffe Fasset's designs, it's kind of about sort of what he calls painting with yarn and painting with colour. I think that Kaffe Fasset is very much the predecessor of Stephen West, another contemporary male knitting pattern designer who works a lot with colour. And so this is a very, very simple jumper that has got something like 20 yarns called for in the pattern list, but I obviously wasn't going to do that. I'm doing it as a leftover project, using leftover yarns and random skeins and things that have been left to me. So I'm kind of taking inspiration from the colours and the mood of what he's created, but my yarns are completely different and my tension, my gauge is completely different too. So yeah, so my aim was that none of the stripes or the sleeves or any part of the sweater would be the same. So I've been working quite hard to create differentiation within the stripes. It's all rolling up, so it's a little bit hard to see, but you get the idea. And yeah, I think it's just going to be really, really fun. So I've done the 2 sleeves, and then since the last time I talked to you, I've done the body. Ooh. And yeah, it's kind of hard to get an idea of it because I didn't swatch because my tension keeps changing because I'm using all different yarns, all held double, you know, DK held double, or 1 DK and 1 fingering, or 2 fingering, and knit on very large 6mm needles too. So kind of felt like any gauge swatch, it's just changing within each stripe. But the nature of the jumper is that it's very, very loose and has hardly any shaping in, very minimal shaping. So I'm kind of working with that, and yeah, really enjoying working on it. But it's a stay-at-home project and I haven't been at home very much. So yeah, it's kind of living underneath my coffee table plant bench here. So whew, again, feeling the wool, feeling very, very warm right now. I think that's it for knitting, which isn't very much. Oh, a little bit out of order. I intended to show you what I was wearing actually. So we'll do a through the wardrobe section now. And it's a hand knitted t-shirt that I made for myself last year. They come a bit closer to the camera. And as you can see, it's got this lace yoke with this kind of square section in it. And it's from a back issue of Pompom. It's from the postage stamp issue. And the yarn is something that I bought when I visited Porto last year for my birthday, which is where I also got the burgundy yarn for my Jameson tunic that you'll have seen a few episodes. That was my entrance for the Vintage Shetland Spring Cal. So I bought myself 2 lots of yarn for my birthday, and they've both been knit up, you know, by a year later, which is quite good, I think. I kind of feel like 12 months in the stash is not too bad. And it's this lovely Rosarios yarn, and Rosarios are a yarn company based in Lisbon, and it's cotton, linen and silk in this fantastic charcoal colour, but it is quite heavy. It's Aran weight yarn, so despite the fact that it's got those really cool plant-based fibres, it's still quite warm to wear, and I'm I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the glow. Yeah, and I made loads and loads of modifications to this pattern because there was hardly any shaping to it, and you know, no woman is an oblong. All women have shaping in one form or the other. All humans, in fact men are not oblongs either, unlike what you might be led to believe by male knitting patterns. So yeah, made loads of changes. I did some like design modifications as well, because I put in this insertion of the eyelets here and on the sleeve, and on the bottom hem here too, and I just put loads of shaping in it. I put in side shaping, and I put in back darts too, and it's possible that I went a little bit overboard with the shaping, but I really like it. I think it's really flattering, and it's really nice to have like a basic black or dark grey garment in my wardrobe it's kind of just a t-shirt, but it's got a little bit of interest, and I'm really into kind of replacing those everyday items through knitting, even though the knitting is obviously, it's a much heavier weight, you know, heavier gauge than you'd have if you bought a t-shirt from the shop, but there's just something really nice to have like a knitted t-shirt. So I'll probably look into in the future doing like a knitted white t-shirt and a burgundy one as well, for sure. Oh yeah, and I made my trousers too, which are linen. Go up, very, very wide-legged indigo linen pants. And they were made from a vintage Issey Miyake Vogue pattern. I think probably from the late 80s, I can't quite remember. Again, I'll put a link to it and the details down below for your reference. And yeah, I've had these for a few years and they kind of go in and out of rotation. They've got these kind of two little side straps that go around and lots of interesting pleating details. But I'm quite clumsy, so unfortunately these side straps, when I'm walking around, they tend to like get caught on doorknobs and handles and stray hooks and bags and nails, so more than once I've been kind of held on by them, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, this is a kind of favourite summer outfit. And then what else to mention? Oh yeah, I said it was my birthday at the weekend. Thank you for your birthday wishes, that's really sweet of you. And so I think I'll just mention this necklace which my grandma gave me, which is silver and crystal, and it's got a little engraving of the goddess Guanyin on it. And to be honest with you, I'm quite an atheist, but I think when it comes to religion, like, old habits die hard. So even though intellectually I don't have a religion, I still have the habits of being a child and going to the temple and being told to pray and then praying, and kind of the rituals and things like that. And I find it very odd when I get asked by, for example, Christians, and it's always Christians, questions such as like, what are you giving up for Lent? Because I would never have been a Christian if I had a religion, because my family are Buddhists. So yeah, that's a kind of weird one. But anyway, I looked up to remind myself some of the mythology and the iconography about Guanyin, because she's known as the goddess of mercy, which is also translated as the goddess of compassion. And I know that women pray to her for, you know, guidance and help in childbirth and women's matters. And I remember that there was a story about basically her having a really horrible dad that she had to run away from. And obviously, like, I would have to go, you know, to the temple and look for a book with an English translation about stories about her, and I think what's on the internet, there's a lot of conflicting information, but what I could basically understand was that she's just basically a really nice goddess. Guanyin is just a nice person. She's basically like a fairy godmother, and if anything goes wrong in your life and you have, like, I don't know, an abusive husband or an abusive parent, or you get sacked, or a horrible boss, or you have like hunger or famine, you just pray to Guanyin and then to just kind of come and sort it out. Like, very, very benevolent. So, you know, I was sort of reading all of these different internet pages about her, and I was like, okay, there's all of this different things, she's being prayed to for all of these different reasons. In a way, like, I suppose in the same way as that, like, people might pray to, like, you know, Jesus or Christian gods for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different things in their lives, or you know, I mean, like I said, I wasn't brought up Christian, and I went to a state school, not a religious one, so really not very informed about Christianity at all. But it's sort of, I've always thought about polytheistic religions comparable to like saints, maybe in Catholicism. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but anyway, the point being, I'm wearing this. I've got this gift which has a goddess on it, and she's just like a really nice person. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, if something's going on, you can just pray to her and she'll just come and sort it out, or just kind of give you inspiration for perseverance when things are physically and mentally challenging, which is quite a nice reminder to have, actually. And it's quite nice to have that sort of grounding that, you know, predates you and your birth and your ancestors' births. Like there is something in there. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there because that's getting a little bit off trend. But let's move on and yeah, talk about my lehenga. So into sewing. So I haven't got any mending for you guys this episode because my, you know, sewing time was taken up by making this. And if you recall, last time I showed you the base of this object, which was a piece of net with this gold embroidery just put on it in the shape of a bodice. So I basically had to figure out how to turn it into an outfit. And I wore it at the wedding at the end of last month, my best friend's wedding, which was wedding 1 out of 3. Like, Hindu weddings are really, really full on. But the next 2 weddings are actually going to be next year. But anyway, we had a really, really lovely time. So obviously I was in Indian dress, all of the bride's friends and family and you know, extended cousins and so on and so forth were all in Indian dress. Everyone was so amazingly glamorous, like bling doesn't cut it. It was, you know, literally just all the women looked like fairy princesses. So that was absolutely lovely, and I got so many compliments on my outfit and lots of people very happy that I had joined in to wear Indian dress. Which was absolutely lovely, because I'd been a bit nervous about it. You know, I'd had this panic and I knew that another non-Indian friend was not going to be wearing it. She'd changed her mind for one reason or another, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna just like look really odd and stand out like a sore thumb. But it wasn't that at all. I think it was about, you know, my deep and long-standing love for my friend and the fact that she was doing this and, you know, honouring the traditions of her culture by, you know, dressing in that kind of manner, you know, in my way, just for a day. So I'm gonna pop in some footage now from the wedding day when I just kind of sneaked off to the side.
Oh wait, I need to be on this side.
Oh, right.
And then maybe come this way.
Yeah. And then like the shawl, it's like that.
Oh really? Going for an Indian look.
Yeah. Is that enough?
Should I do a twirl?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's me and the lehenga for my best friend's wedding. I hope that you enjoyed seeing that. Conversational threads. So we're already at the end of the episode, and I just want to open conversational threads by saying a big, big, massive thank you again to everybody who has recently donated to the Crimson Stitchery through Kaffe. If you're not aware, Kaffe is an online donation platform which allows you to support content creators by buying them a coffee, metaphorically and literally, which basically means that the site collects a PayPal donation and passes it on to me. And lots of people donated from the last time I announced this and helped me to buy not just a selfie stick for making videos, but also an external hard drive for my computer. And that has just been absolutely, you know, game-changing. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Like, I'm even finding it difficult to express, but honestly, just thank you for sticking around. Thank you for, you know, kind of in a literary way by writing comments, and, you know, in a verbal way, and in a financial way for supporting this channel. As I mentioned before, donating through Kaffe is not compulsory, and I appreciate all the forms of support that you guys have shared with me, which includes like reposting, sharing and spreading the word of the Crimson Stitchery through social media and other channels, and just helping it grow, engaging with me through this platform by writing comments, joining the Ravelry group, sharing your projects, chatting in the threads, joining in the knit-alongs. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to say that the channel's now grown to 2,000 subscribers. So whilst we are, you know, small fry in the wider scheme of YouTube, where we're talking about people that have got like, you know, 5 million and so on and so forth, like I feel very lucky to have you here with me in my little crimson corner, as so many of you have described it here. So big thank you for supporting this channel. And then let's move into conversational threads. So I'm going to be doing a reading from this book, which is Anaïs Nin's book, In Favour of the Sensitive Man and Other Essays. And this is recently something that I bought myself for my birthday. So I really enjoyed treating myself to a lot of things for my birthday this weekend, which is really lovely because I think when you get older, you know, it's hard for people sometimes to know what you might like for your birthday. So it's actually really gorgeous to be able to just go out and spend some time with friends in a bookshop and just pick out a few volumes that I'm enjoying. So this text, Anaïs Nin. If you don't know who Anaïs Nin is, she's really worth looking up. She's such a fascinating and, you know, really revolutionary for her time. And even, not just for her time actually, even today, figure. Anaïs Nin was a writer, philosopher, poet. She's most famous for her diaries that she wrote in the early half of 20th century, but also for her erotic fiction, of course. Because the way that she wrote about womanhood and sexuality, you know, it predated by far any of the sexual revolutions of the 1960s. You know, she was really part of the Bohemian circuit in Paris, but also New York, of like, you know, the 1930s and 40s. And she just has such a unique, had such a unique perspective on the world that still applies today. So I've been reading some of her essays. Most of these were written in the 60s and 70s, and they still feel completely fresh. She was bilingual, so she was born in France, but also grew up in America, so she's bilingual in English and French. So I believe that most of these ones here were actually written in English. But anyway, less talking, more reading. So I'm going to be reading a few excerpts from The New Woman, which was a speech given in San Francisco in 1974, April 1st, and then later published in June 1974. So The New Woman. Why one writes is a question I can answer easily, having so often asked it of myself. I believe one writes because one has to create a world in which one can live. I could not live in any of the worlds offered to me. The world of my parents, the world of war, the world of politics. I had to create a world of my own, like a climate, a country, an atmosphere in which I could breathe, reign and recreate myself when destroyed by living. That, I believe, is the reason for every work of art. The artist is the only one who knows that the world is a subjective creation, that there is a choice to be made, a selection of elements. It is a materialization, an incarnation of his inner world. Then he hopes to attract others into it. He hopes to impose his particular vision and share it with others. And when the second stage is not reached, the brave artist continues nevertheless. The few moments of communion with the world are worth the pain, for it is a world for others, an inheritance for others, a gift to others in the end. We also write to heighten our own awareness of life. We write to lure and enchant and console others. We write to serenade our lovers. We write to taste life twice, in the moment and in retrospection. We write, like Proust, to render all of it eternal and to persuade ourselves that it is eternal. We write to be able to transcend our life, to reach beyond it. We write to teach ourselves to speak with others, to record the journey into the labyrinth. We write to expand our world when we feel strangled, or constricted, or lonely. We write as the birds sing. Continuing. When I talk so much of the artist, I don't mean only the one who gives us music, who gives us colour, who gives us architecture, who gives us philosophy, who gives us so much and enriches our life. I mean the creative spirit in all its manifestations. For me, even as a child, when my father and mother were quarrelling, my father was a pianist and my mother was a singer. When music time came, everything became peaceful and beautiful. And as children, we shared the feeling that music was a magical thing which restored harmony in the family and made life bearable for us. Moving on. So we're here to celebrate the sources of faith and confidence. I want to give you the secrets of the constant alchemy that we must practice to turn brass into gold, hate into love, destruction into creation, to change the crass daily news into inspiration and despair into joy. None need misinterpret this as indifference to the state of the world or to the actions by which we can stem the destructiveness of the corrupt system. There is an acknowledgement that, as human beings, we need nourishment to sustain the life of the spirit so that we can act in the world. But I don't mean turn away. I mean we must gain our strength and our values from self-growth and self-discovery. Against all odds, against all handicaps, and against the chamber of horrors we call history, man has continued to dream and to depict its opposite. That is what we have to do. We do not escape into philosophy, psychology and art. We go there to restore our shattered selves into whole ones. Anaïs Nin from The New Woman. Okay, so let's discuss some of that text. Firstly, let's say when she's talking about writing or music and being an artist, she says explicitly, she doesn't just mean the confines of those things. She's talking about being creative. And she's talking about the balance that we have to find between engaging with the world and responding to it, not being consumed by, the horrors of current events and the news, not hiding from it, but using that to create something wonderful that will ultimately nourish us and sustain us. And I've taken a lot of comfort from reading these essays because I think there's a really delicate balance to dance between creativity and kind of self-awareness. We all have moments, I think, or at least I do, where we might ask ourselves, what's the point? What's the point? There's so much that's wrong with the world. There's so many bigger things that are wrong with the world. What on earth are we doing by making? When we have the compulsion to make, and yet maybe our homes are full, there's so much stuff in the world, there's so much pollution from, the textiles industries, from dye runoff, from plastic runoff. Why do we continue at all? And it's really important to kind of grasp that and transcend it, I think. Otherwise, what's the point of being alive, basically? And I think that making things is a joy and it's a gift that we give to others. We give to others and we give to ourselves. It's a way of saying no, and it's a way of saying yes to nourishment of our daily lives. And that's really what I'm hoping to achieve and communicate to you guys through the Crimson Stitchery. So thank you for all the feedback that you've been giving me as well about that. I think that creativity is necessary. I think that making things by hand gives so much more to our engagement with the world. When we understand processes and materials in such great depth, a t-shirt isn't just a t-shirt. And that's something that's really come through the kind of growing awareness about fibres and the kind of slow fashion, slow making movements, if you will, that have been happening recently. So I'm just going to briefly now go into something that I touched upon at the beginning of this episode, which is about Instagram. For anyone that isn't into Instagram, I'm not going to chat about this for too long, so don't worry. But I've made it quite clear on this YouTube channel that I am not in love with Instagram as a platform. I think that politically, it and its parent company, Facebook, are really dubious and scary. I don't like the way that it monitors users and collects data, including stuff about like the use of the microphone on your phone, because I've had instances where I've had conversations with people and then, you know, keywords from those conversations has turned up in Instagram adverts despite the fact that I haven't searched it as a keyword. So like they're recording us and they're listening to us. I also don't like a lot of the physical ways in how the platform works, like how you engage and interact with people. So there's that. I've always been very on the fence about Instagram, and I've expressed that to you guys before, which is why I wanted to create options for communications like YouTube, the Crimson Stitchery newsletter, and also a Ravelry group as alternatives. And all year there's been a growing change in the culture of knitting on Instagram. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it whatever you want. I've chosen not to engage with it because I'm personally engaged in matters of creating structural change at university. So I deal with stuff like institutional racism quite a lot, both through what I study, you know, in terms of curriculum, and post-colonial studies, which is what my field is in many ways. Well, it's a cross-disciplinary project, but anyway, that's another story. So through what I study, through how I study it, who I study, but also the structures in the university, like research departments and research hubs and conferences and so on and so forth. I've spoken before about the conference that I organised this term and the work that I'm engaged with behind the scenes of my research too. So I'm kind of doing all of that stuff at work and didn't really feel like I wanted to get into it in an app, in my hobby spare time as well. So I decided to, rather than talk about change, to try and be the change. So I was convinced to start this video channel after being persuaded to do so by about 2 or 3 years by some good friends of mine. You know, I thought, okay, like people are talking about how, you know, there's whitewashing or whatever in the knitting industry and how there aren't very many people of colour that host podcasts. Okay, sure, I'll start a podcast. Maybe this is a good time to do it. So I've done that. And I just wanted to be the change. I didn't want to talk about the change. Just wanted to do it. And it's just got to a point on Instagram where the culture of that online platform in knitting has just become completely intolerable to me. And this week I received notice of a good friend of mine receiving threats, which is not okay. Now, I don't want to speak for them and their decision and how they are deciding to proceed with that incident. Personally, I would have called the police. Myself, I would have filed a police incident. You know, it's really, really, really not okay. And I'm purposely being vague. I'm not going to say anything more. It wasn't my situation, but it was something that happened to a close friend of mine. And at that point, it comes home, it stops being theory, it stops being talk, and it's real life in more ways than one. And I've just decided that I've had enough and I don't want to engage with it anymore. It's not for me. It's not something that I have to do. I'm not relying on Instagram for my income, so that's okay. So that's why I said at the beginning of the episode that A Sour Telling on Instagram, my page, is about my personal life. It's about where I'm going, what I'm seeing, who I'm chatting to, good times that I'm having. But the YouTube is going to be remaining the same. I've received a lot of support for this decision, a lot of empathy and understanding. I don't care if anyone disagrees with my decision. I literally don't care. You know, I don't care, like, whatever. And I am a big advocate for setting boundaries with anything, not just online space, like work-life balance, on, you know, hobby-life balance. I'm a big advocate for taking time for yourself and taking time out and not feeling pressured to do things and not feeling peer pressured or coerced or, you know, swept along by movements. I'm one for critically thinking for yourself, judging and deciding what is best for you. So that's what I've decided to do. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the mood down, but I just thought I'd address that here as well, since this is my platform. And it relates to the text that I was reading, you know. Why be brought down when I can spend my time creating things which will bring me and hopefully you guys up. I want to bring everybody up. I want everybody to feel empowered to make, to create, to have positive conversations, for everybody to live their best life possible in a way that is sustainable and doesn't harm us or the planet, you know, as much as we possibly can. And that's really what the Crimson Stitchery is about. I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow and develop the Crimson Stitchery with you guys in my corner. So thank you so much. Thanks for your time and for watching. Big massive thank you again to everybody who has donated through Kaffe. Your donations go really far to make this possible. And for anyone that's interested and has enjoyed this episode and wants to leave me a tip, the link for my Kaffe is below this video here. Oh, one final thing before I sign off. I've started a monthly newsletter for the Crimson Stitchery. The sign up link is below. The next issue will be going out at the beginning of August. And thank you to everybody who gave me such great feedback for the July edition. It's really appreciated. Next week I'll be uploading a vlog that I took of my friend's exhibition opening, so the next podcast episode will be in 2 weeks. I hope that you are safe, that you are happy, that you are enjoying the climate and your craft wherever you are in the world. Thanks for watching, bye bye, see you soon.